Hi, I'm Patrick Dunnican. At Gibbons, we believe that citizens need to be informed about the complex issues that affect their lives. That's why we're proud to support the programming produced by the Caucus Educational Corporation and their partners in public television.
Funding for this edition of One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been provided by the Russell Berry Foundation, Montclair State University, New Jersey Resources, MD Advantage Insurance Company of New Jersey, New Jersey Sharing Network, dedicated to saving lives through organ and tissue donation, the law firm of Gibbons, P.C., and by New Jersey State Nurses Association and the Institute for Nursing. Promotional support provided by NJ.com, Small News, Big News, True Jersey. And by New Jersey Monthly, the magazine of the Garden State, available at newsstands.
This is One-on-One. I'm an equal American just like you are.
The jobs of tomorrow are not the jobs of yesterday.
Look at this.
You
got this?
Here it is, man. Look at that.
Life without dance is boring.
When you first heard that they were doing Charlie Rose and Gayle King, didn't you go, what?
Do you enjoy talking politics?
No.
People call me because they feel nobody's paying attention.
Our culture, I don't think, has ever been tested the way it's being tested right now.
Such a good question. High five.
Welcome to One-on-One. I'm Steve Adubato. This has got to be, you have to be one of the most fascinating people I've ever spoken to. People are going to find out in a second. She is Melina Macall. She is the co-founder of the United Tastes of America and Syria Supper Club, which is?
Which is an organization that sprang from one event, which my partner Kate McCaffrey and I set up in response to the xenophobic and Islamophobic rhetoric we were hearing in the area.
But there's a food connection here, because you were saying right before we got in the air, you talked about food justice. There's a whole bunch of food issues. What do food issues have to do with Syrian refugees, et cetera?
Well, rather than the food issues, it's the power of food to bring people together. We all eat. It's a nice common ground at which to meet people. And we wanted to bring people together and create connections and show support of our, at that point initially, our Muslim neighbors, to show that there were people in New Jersey specifically who did not agree with then Governor, well, he still is our governor, but Governor Christie's.
As we do this program, yes.
Yes, comment in November of 2015 that no Syrian refugees could come to the state. We wanted to respond, and we wanted to respond in a positive way. So we brought people together. Our very first event, we didn't know it was our first event, we thought it was an event, was a Christmas Day meal, a traditional Jewish Christmas Day meal of Chinese takeout with Jews and Muslims in a synagogue, and in fact the broader community as well.
What was it like?
Fantastic.
What made it so great?
The thing that makes all of our events great was first shown there, which is people's wanting to show a hand of friendship. And so people were just wanting to be there. There was a tremendous atmosphere of warmth. We work with trust all the time. So as it turned out, we ended up with 10 recently resettled Syrian families, and their first foray into New Jersey was coming to a synagogue. And that was a big leap of faith for them. And we had people who gave up their Christmas, who do celebrate Christmas, and they said, we want to be here and show solidarity. And so that atmosphere, as the underscoring background to the evening, made everything else magnificent. Whether the food was magnificent or not, it didn't really matter. It tasted great. I guess it's like manna in the desert. It's what you want it to be.
You know, it's so interesting. In my family, it's largely Italian food around holidays, and we try to avoid speaking about politics because it never goes well. But apparently when you get together, you talk about all kinds of things like?
We do, but we also encourage people to not leap straight in and expect a resettled family to tell their backstory. In the same way that you wouldn't go to a party and ask somebody who you hadn't met before but had heard they had gone through something traumatic like a divorce or a terrible illness. You wouldn't say, hi, I'm Steve. I hear you've had a bad divorce. Tell me all about it.
Or I lost a loved one. You wouldn't do it.
You just wouldn't do it. So, so we tend to encourage people to find the connecting points of conversation. And food is not only a great way to come together, but also a great conversation starter. So our Syrian cooks prepare the food, and it's their food, so they're preparing it with great love and with a positive cultural background that comes in the food. And then our American guests who are at the table, when they're sitting and conversing, a great starting point is something that they're eating. They can ask about
excuse me
it.
for interrupting. Where do you find people on all sides for this?
So,
By the way, do we put up the information, Jen, so people can find out more? Go ahead.
So on the Syrian side of things, and right now we're working primarily with Syrians, but we do have a couple of Iraqi cooks and an Afghani cook as well. It started with that event I told you about two Christmases ago, where we had these 10 recently resettled families. And we started visiting them, and every time we visited them, they fed us. And my partner Kate and I were rapidly expanding and decided we needed somebody else to eat the food too. But we also saw this as a great opportunity for our new neighbors to sit at the table as equals and to be actively involved in determining their future in a positive way. So we invited them to prepare the food. And we started with the people we knew, and word spread in the community. We started with, we knew 10, and we now have over 50 cooks.
Where do you do it? Excuse me for interrupting. Where do you do it now? Where are the events?
The events are held in people's homes. We were very deliberate about that because we wanted to create that intimacy and that feeling of safety and comfort that a home brings. So we'll have an American host who opens up their home for it. And then the Syrians who bring in the food, they're kind of hosts as well because they're providing the food. So we all sit together. But we've expanded beyond that. We do corporate events often for staff or for staff and families. And even though those are much larger, we still manage to retain that feeling of intimacy and connection and connectivity, partly how we open the evening with an introduction and a little talk. And people get together and they mix. We bring in an interpreter, but we also encourage people to use their phones. Google Translate is we call it our frenemy because you never quite know what it's saying.
No, it's not always exactly the right translation.
It's not always remotely what you thought you were saying, so there's another leap of faith there.
Let me do this. I'm curious about this. Your healthy obsession with food and the power of food. It's really, as you said, the power of food. Give me the most concise response you can to this question. What is the power of food in bringing people together, particularly when you're dealing with Syrian refugees and the misconceptions around it? Loaded question, I know.
It enables us to personalize the impersonal. So my perception, for example, of the Syrian refugee crisis could have been what I see on the TV, on media, what I read in the newspaper, the terrible photos, the tragedy, and so on. But I have no real sense of that being a person. Then I have somebody sitting next to me who has made some delicious food.
At dinner.
And we're having dinner together. And I can ask about the food. And maybe she will choose to share that she used to make this with her sisters back home. And I'll get a sense of that. Or she'll talk about her kids, or maybe her daughter helped her, or maybe her husband is the official taster, something like that. And suddenly it's not this impersonal concept of a refugee. It is a real person who maybe had the same background, had things that were similar to me in their past life. Maybe they didn't, but we do have points of connection, and food is one of them.
Last question. The future of your organization, which is doing so much to help so many. Go ahead.
So we started with our one-off event, and from that we then had 2 dinners, which we thought was going to be it. In our first year of the dinners, we've had over 250 events, fed over 2,500 guests, and now have over 50 cooks, all raring to go. We are in the process of incorporating as a 501c3.
A not-for-profit organization.
A non-profit organization. And we are planning to have a commercial kitchen, bring the cooks in there, set up professional training, incorporate English as a second language in the workplace so that you have the context of where you're learning, so you actually are able to learn. And just from this, not necessarily create employment for everybody who is working with us, but create the confidence and the dignity, a dignified path to them being self-sufficient and being contributors to our society.
You are making, excuse me, a very big difference, a significant difference. We thank you for everything you're doing to bring people together around the power of food. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for having us.
This is One-on-One. We'll be right back. Thank you very much.
To watch more One-on-One with Steve Adubato, find us online and follow us on social media.
We are pleased to welcome Shelby Klein, President and Chief Executive Officer of a terrific organization I know very well. It is called the Adler Aphasia Center. Good to see you, Shelby.
Likewise, Steve. Thanks for having me.
Tell folks what the Adler Aphasia Center is.
Sure. The Adler Aphasia Center is a nonprofit dedicated to both helping people and their families if they have aphasia, as well as raising awareness as to what aphasia is.
Named after Mike and Elaine Adler, our great friends. For those of you who've been watching us for years, you know that Elaine, who just celebrated her 90th birthday, Mike, her husband, who was stricken with aphasia some years back, a very successful business entrepreneur. Mike, we've lost Mike, but the spirit of Mike and Elaine continues to go on. For those who don't know what aphasia is, tell them.
Sure. Aphasia is a communication disorder that typically follows some type of brain trauma. Stroke is the most common reason why it occurs, but it could be an accident that causes brain injury, or even a tumor, or something else. And what it does is the part of your brain that impacts your communication skills, your speech, your reading, your writing, it gets damaged. And people will wake up the next day after that brain injury. They might not be able to speak. They may not be able to read or write, or any combination of them. And that becomes very debilitating to them in their recovery. Because it impacts their esteem and their sense of purpose.
Sure.
So we address that with the services.
Let's
that
break
we
it down a
provide.
little bit. I happen to have been honored to be able to host once again the Adler Aphasia Center Gala. People come together, people who are dealing with aphasia, family members, caregivers, and others who support the effort. But let's be really clear. At the Adler Aphasia Center, give us one example of a service that really makes a difference for the person dealing with aphasia, as well as everyone who's dealing with it, including family. Go ahead.
Sure. We have 2 full-service centers, one in Maywood and one in West Orange. And during the day, people with aphasia and their family members come, and we offer a variety of groups for them. So as an example, we have an advocacy group. And in that group, the people with aphasia will practice their communication skills, whether that's speaking with each other in a comfortable environment or using technology to assist them to speak. And in that group, as advocates, is they're practicing speaking to groups of people and educating them about aphasia. Typically, healthcare professionals or students in going to school to become healthcare professionals. While they're in that group, their caregiver might be in a caregiver support group.
What goes on there?
The caregivers really bind
We're
together.
looking at some of them right now.
And they have an opportunity to be in an environment where they feel safe and they can share experiences and they can share resources and different strategies they, as a caregiver, can implement in their lives, whether it's something concrete to help their family member or something for them for self-care as well.
You know, interesting. For those of us who have had family members who deal with communication challenges for a variety of reasons, but let's stay on the aphasia issue. What is it like for the patient?
We refer to them as members.
That's right. What is it like for the member? And by the way, if you're not a member, we'll put up the information about the Adler Aphasia Center. We wish there were more, but it's a question of resources, if you will. What is it like for the member/family? Challenging.
It's challenging in a lot of ways because for many of them, it's you were on a path in life and all of a sudden it became disrupted one day.
That's Mike Adler. He was a very successful business person. One day he's stricken with aphasia. His ability to communicate, a key to his success, is not there.
Correct. So they might have lost their whole self-identity because they can't go back to work the next day. You know, for the 30-year-old who was a teacher, she can't get back to that classroom and teach those kids how to read anymore, let alone read herself.
Do other people understand what has happened? Because the word aphasia, we're still looking to get it out there. People understand, like, oh, she had a stroke, he had a stroke. It's the other part of it after.
Most people are not aware. Most people don't know what the word aphasia even is, unfortunately. That's why it's part of our mission to raise awareness. And for many people, they're coping with so many after effects that, they've almost become isolated because they almost don't know what to do. They go to rehabilitation, that ends. If they're fortunate, they find us, and we become their new network of family and friends.
By the way, the Adler Aphasia Center is, in fact, a model across this country for how to deal with these issues. Real quick on this one. There was an aphasia task force in the state of New Jersey that was spearheaded by Senator Loretta Weinberg, whose sister dealt with aphasia, and some other legislators as well who are actively involved. What is that task force, and why does it matter?
Sure. Loretta Weinberg has been our champion. The task force was signed into law this past spring, and hopefully it gets off the ground by January.
What's it supposed to do?
The task force is going to look at raising awareness and providing services in the community. So like we said, there's probably at least 70,000 people in New Jersey who have aphasia.
70,000.
Correct. Those are very conservative estimates. We're seeing about 150 of them a year. So out there's 70,000 additional people that could benefit from our service and benefit from awareness being raised in the community so that people know, that person, they might not be able to speak, and it's not their intellect that's impacted. It's just their communication. So you can't think of that person as having less intellect in any way, and that impacts how people interact with you. And to know that, it's still Steve. He might not be able to speak the same way, but that's still Steve, and we can still have a conversation, but now Steve has learned through us some tools to make that conversation flow easier for him and for you.
Last question. You're a relatively new head of the organization. Number one thing you want to accomplish over the next couple of years would be?
Definitely raising awareness. For us, the services we have them spread across the state now. So over time, they'll grow, and hopefully they'll grow into full service centers as they become more and more popular. But raising awareness is key for us right now.
Shelby, we appreciate everything you do on behalf of all the families and the members who are dealing with it, and just can't imagine what it would be like if your organization were not in place. Thank you to Elaine, the team, and also Mike, who I'm sure is up there looking down and appreciating the work every day.
Thank you, Steve.
Stay with us, one-on-one. We'll be right back. Thank you, Shelby.
Thank you.
To see more one-on-one with Steve Adubato programs, visit us online at steveadubato.org. If you would like to express an opinion, email us at info@caucusnj.org. Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Steve Adubato PhD, and follow us on Twitter at Steve Adubato.
We're pleased to welcome Matt Weissert, who is Senior Vice President of Operations at Paladina Health. Good to see you, Matt.
Thanks, Steve. Thanks for having me.
What is Paladina Health?
Yeah, Paladina Health is direct primary care, but I'll make it simple. You're a family doctor. So we have, it's family physicians, but we do it a little bit differently. So we have a membership fee that takes care of all the costs involved. So a normal physician's office will do a fee for service, or every time you come in, they're going to charge you a copay, and, and then you're going to get billed after for anything that's
done. You guys don't do that?
We don't do that.
How does that work, the economic model?
Yeah, so the way we do it is we go direct to an employer, in this case the state of New Jersey, and they are giving us a membership fee for each one of their employees that choose to join. And then when they do that, they have 24/7 access to their physician. They have same-day, next-day appointments. We have no wait time to get in, and then they have a minimum of 30-minute appointments with their physician. And then from there, there's no cost. So they have no copay. And then everything we do inside those four walls, or when they call, we don't charge. We don't bill for it because the membership fee takes care of it.
Someone says, hey, come on, that sounds too good to be true. You say?
I say, that's what I usually get. People say that, like, what's the catch? And
what is the catch?
There really is no catch. So our physicians are, they're employed by us, and they have about a third less of the patients that they would normally have in a family physician practice today, in a normal system. So for them, they're able to spend more time with the patients, spend more time with the families, and make sure they're providing great quality health care. That's all their job.
I'm curious about this. How do you recruit the docs that you have? Because if someone says, well, if I see more patients, I'm making more money.
Sure.
You're saying it's about a third less patients, fewer patients.
Yeah, so our physicians on average usually have been practicing for 7 to 10 years. They've been out in the system. They went to medical school to learn how to take care of patients, to spend time with their patients. They get into the system, no fault of their own, and they start seeing, like, I've got to see 30 patients a day. I've got to see somebody, I can only spend 5-10 minutes with them. And they just get into that grind. Where with us, we say, hey, come back, take care of your patients, spend time with them. You know, you get to choose how much time you spend with them and what you do. Build the relationship with them. So you have those physicians that are out there. I want to get back to practicing, you know, what I went to school for. I want to have that relationship with my patients, and so that's how we bring them over.
So this is not an effort to politicize at all, but it's an effort to try to understand. As we do this program, moving into the holidays of 2017, we don't really know exactly what's going to happen with the Affordable Care Act, right, in Washington. How much does the ACA and what happens to it impact the ability of Paladina to do what it does?
Yeah, personally for us right now, unless some legislation changes in it, it wouldn't affect us at all, simply because we don't bill the government, we don't bill insurance companies, so we're getting our direct fee from the employer or from the state in this case. So for us, it doesn't change anything on how we'll do it going forward. It's really all about taking care of the patients.
So how much of it has to do with educating patients about this whole experience? Because it is different from some other experience they would have.
Yeah, so you said it before, what's the catch, right? What's in there? And it is. So we have to get out there and tell people, just like any other change, this is an innovative way to look at healthcare. You've only known one system, which is when I go in, I have to pay my copay, fee for service, and the more volume you have, that's how they make them. That's how the money is made. Or in our case, it's no, just come in. You don't have a copay. There's no barrier to get in. You have same day, next day appointment. You can get in. We call it small waiting rooms with nobody in there because we're going to get you in right when your appointment is. Come back to that and really be a part of it.
And trying to do the math on this. If someone is in there longer, because he or she has some real issues, and the physician is the primary care doc is taking a lot of time with him or her. How do you account? I mean, I don't want to get into the weeds here, but how do you account for that so that you walk in the waiting room and there's not a long wait, but people are spending more time with patients? I'm wondering how that adds up.
I think the biggest thing for us is when you set up an appointment, we're guaranteeing a 30-minute appointment. So right away, we've already blocked off that amount of time. But what we tell our staff to do and our care teams to do is when you're calling, do you think this is something where you're going to need more than 30 minutes? And usually people can gauge how that is. Oftentimes when we have our first appointment, we'll set aside 60 minutes because we're going to do a physical or a history to find out what it is about that patient. So just like with anything else, there can be times where people go over or under, but in general, our wait times are 3 to 5 minutes.
The whole primary care thing is fascinating to me because I have this terrible habit. If I think something's going on, and I'll try to reach out for a particular specialist, because he or she, that's what they do. But the reality is, your argument, and the argument of many, is that the vast majority of medical issues can and should be dealt with by a primary care doc.
I would agree. So, and it's not just me saying that, not just Paladina Health saying that. It's across the board. About 80 to 90% of all
80 to 90%?
80-90% of all healthcare needs can usually be taken care of by a direct primary care physician. The issue is they usually don't have enough time. And what we've tried to do is take that back. So give them the time to be able to sit down with the patient and talk to them and really come up with a plan.
Who thought of this?
I think we were talking about it earlier. I wish I could say.
I'm serious. Who sat around and said, hey, we're going to come up with a new model?
Yeah, there's been organizations that have been doing this for years. And the direct primary care is the official term.
Direct primary care.
Direct primary care, and that's just the term for it. But I think again, it's your family physician. Not to get too complicated about it. We came up with it at Paladina Health about 5 years ago, just saying how could we help change healthcare? How could we do it for the better? And we had 3 guiding principles, which were we want to have great quality healthcare. The second thing was we want to make it great customer service, have it be a great experience for people. And then third, save money not only for the member or the patient coming in, but also for the healthcare system. Because if you do the first two, but you don't save money, it doesn't help the healthcare system or people.
Final question, Matt. You're in 10 states?
We're in 10 states right now.
Why New Jersey? And by the way, where in New Jersey?
So we're in Clifton and Hamilton, just outside Trenton.
So in actually Clifton, only a few miles away from where we're taping right now at TriStar, a great production operation. And then down in Hamilton.
Yeah.
Why'd you pick Jersey?
So it's interesting. So of all the things, the state and the unions got together and they decided.
Hold on, the state and the unions got together in and of itself. Never mind.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So no, but I mean it's a great. New Jersey right now is really leading the way on innovation in healthcare, and so they actually got together and they said we're going to write a resolution, which they did. They then did a national search, and we were one of 2 providers that was chosen because of that. And we're excited to be here in New Jersey. We have 2 offices now, but Paladina Health hopes to be in many, many locations moving forward.
It's interesting to me, before I let you out of here.
Yeah.
You do not have a New Jersey accent.
No, I do not. What? I'm sorry?
Indiana.
I'm from Indiana.
I just guessed that. No, you told me before. And immediately, of course, I had to ask you about Hoosiers.
Absolutely.
Which everyone does.
Yeah.
Listen, I just want to thank you for coming in. I want to just one more time thank Matthew Weissert, who is Senior Vice President of Operations at Paladina Health. And I appreciate you coming in and keep us posted on what's happening.
Thank you, Steve. Really appreciate it.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Good stuff.
One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been a production of the Caucus Educational Corporation, celebrating over 25 years of broadcast excellence. Funding for this edition of One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been provided by the Russell Berry Foundation, Montclair State University, New Jersey Resources, MD Advantage Insurance Company of New Jersey, New Jersey Sharing Network, the law firm of Gibbons, P.C., and by New Jersey State Nurses Association and the Institute for Nursing. Transportation provided by Airbrook Limousine, serving the metropolitan New York, New Jersey area. One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been produced in partnership with TriStar Studios.
The New Jersey State Nurses Association is a leading advocate for nurses. Healthcare succeeds when each member of the team works together, and nurses are an integral part of that process. We support our nurses through continuing education, we monitor the latest healthcare trends, and we work to ensure that nurses have a seat at the table when healthcare legislation is being passed. Producing the highest quality patient outcomes is our mission, because caring for you is what matters most to us.